Welcome back to the College Football Recap Show. I am the hostess with the mostest, joined by my illustrious partner in crime for all things related to college football and ball knowing at the collegiate level and in Dynasty, Debbie Superflex. And we have a mock today, 12-team, full PPR, points, Superflex, 0.75 mock, tight end premium that we're going to get into today. But before I do that, how are you doing today, Dustin?
Chef, I'm doing good, man. Woke up just ready to talk about these guys. I've been delving into this class for so long already that it's just like second nature, man. So I'm ready to dig in, talk about some guys that maybe the general Dynasty community just hasn't really heard of yet. And maybe some guys that they have, man. Super fun stuff here. This is the favorite part of Dynasty for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously there's people that say that there's no edges left in, there's no edges left in fantasy football. There's no edges left in Dynasty. But I genuinely disagree with that statement, especially when I get to be around, someone who is immersed into the college football sphere, scouting, writing up reports every single week, putting video evidence to show the things that you've put onto the scouting report. So I can't thank you enough for doing this, but also it helps me get ready. And we always say, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So before we get into the mock today, tell everybody I'm doing this on my own. You don't have I know you don't like talking about yourself, but tell everybody where we can find the breakdowns, the film breakdowns, the in detail scouting reports. Tell everybody where they can find that.
Yeah, man, the best place to get that is at Substack. It's a great newish social media platform where you're able to present long form articles. And we have that. Just go into Substack and search for the Devi Dojo. I got all kinds of breakdowns that I'm doing. I do weekly matchup breakdowns where I highlight the Devi guys that you're going to want to be paying attention to. So maybe you like college football, but you're like, I don't really know who I should be watching. Who are the guys that are potential NFL talents? Why do all the work so that you don't have to? And I don't just present it in narrative form. I also have some cut-ups of all 22 film that I put out there as well. And the best part is it's all for free, right? It's not hidden behind a paywall or anything like that. The good stuff will be. So go ahead and just search in Substack for us, or you can find me on Twitter at Empire Elite. I do have a link tree to everything that I'm working on. Of course, we also have our YouTube show, Devi Dojo. Just go on YouTube and search Devi Dojo or find me in the link tree there. We're doing all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a lot of fun, and it does give me a jump start as an avid Dynasty player. After all, all this came about because we love playing the game, and so I still play the game, and I love learning as much about these dudes as the time that you've put into this. I can't emphasize that enough. So please, if you haven't, go follow the Substack at the. Give it to me again.
The Devi Dojo.
I didn't want to. I wasn't sure. I know you said it, but my mind immediately was about to say Empire of the Elite FF. And I was like, that's not right. So that's what that pause was. But without, we've talked enough. Obviously, we're going to talk some more as soon as I hit the off button when we stop recording. But let's get into the 1-1. And obviously, this is right now today. Right.
Yeah.
This is a mock that you and I actually you put it together. I'm in the mock. I picked from the 9 spot. So it'll be interesting to see what you guys have to say about the have to say about my picks here. But we know quarterbacks are going to rise. Obviously, if there's a guy that's in contention to be the number 1 overall pick or going to a QB needy franchise, this is Superflex. So those guys' value will rise. But for today, as we have it right now, the information we have to go off of, I'm going to let you introduce the 1-1 in this particular mock.
Okay. So for this mock, the 1-1 was running back Jeremiyah Love out of Notre Dame. And as you alluded to, as we get closer to the draft, maybe after we get the draft capital, with it being Superflex, I do expect that position to rise because there's still some guys that could potentially be there. But over the course of the offseason, Chef, you and I and others, we talked about the strength of this class being quarterbacks. And unfortunately, with what we've seen, with the information that's been presented to us, with the play that's been on the field, that position has really decreased. And what we've seen is just the steady balance of Jeremiyah Love and everything that he's done. He's been as advertised. He's been as electric as we thought. He's been good with the ball in his hands. He absolutely demolished my USC Trojans, him and Jadarian Price. Really good running back tandem there for them. So I think that at this point, I'm comfortable taking the known elite running back stud, because after him, there's some good running backs that I like, but none quite to his level. I think that Jeremiyah Love, I believe with all my heart, Chev, that he's going to continue that trend of having at least one running back taken in the first round. And he's the only one that I could see at this point doing that.
That's a very sharp point. And one of the notes that I have in here is that currently Yahoo Sports, the mock draft that they put out on here recently, their most recent mock draft, they have him mocked to the Bears at pick 17 right now. So can you imagine what he represents in a Ben Johnson offense? You early on in the spring scouting, you talked about him taking reps at receiver. And so you have a guy with a skill set that is a home run hitting skill set. Again, this is a guy with multiple 90-yard touchdowns, one in the college football playoff last year. Here, I believe last week, he had a 94-yard touchdown run. So this is a home run hitting guy with prototypical size and speed, the elite skill set. So we're not going to take any arguments about who the 1-1 is right now. Obviously, Superflex does change the math a little bit, but if you just wanted to insert a stud in your lineup and, have a guy that's on a rookie contract for 5 years and being 17, 18, 20 points a game in your lineup, I believe this is the safest bet to do so. Any pushback on that?
No, not at all. I would just like to remind the viewers of 2023 when we had Bijan Robinson as the consensus 101, and that was including Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud was the other. There was 3 top-end quarterbacks that were taken high in the first round of the draft, and still you were seeing Bijan taken 101 in your rookie drafts, and I believe it's the same thing here. You talked about his home run hitting ability. Yesterday, he had a 94-yard rush against Boston College.
Oh, that was yesterday?
Yeah, that was yesterday, man. Yesterday, where he was running along the sideline and he looked at his sideline, man. It was so cold. Like he was just gone. You see him looking at his sideline. I don't know what he's saying, but it was just like, yeah, I'm him. Boom, gone to the house. That's Jeremiyah Love, and that's the explosive home run ability that's going to be on your dynasty rosters here very soon. And we know for fantasy that's gold.
So the last question I'll ask you is, do you view him as in the same tier as Ashton Jeanty last year? Follow up to that, where would he rank in the 2025 draft class?
Interesting. I personally probably would put him up there with Jeanty, only because I think that he has more receiving upside than Jeanty. I think he didn't get as much of a volume workload than Jeanty, so I think the tires are a little more fresh as well. But that would be hard. I really have to gauge that after seeing the draft capital. But on my own projection, I think I would put him up there. And if I had to take him in 2025, I'd probably put him up there in the same tier with Jeanty and Hampton, only because I really am projecting him to get that first round draft cap.
I absolutely love that. No pushback here. I'm curious because, of the fact that I do think that he's done everything that you can. And it might end up being one of the things where we get a little bit of prospect fatigue and some undue questions about his abilities, just because we've been privileged to see somebody like that for this long. But let's move on to the 1-2.
Hey guys, quick reminder. If you haven't signed up for the free Discord or the free Patreon, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description.
The wide receiver 1 in a lot of people's minds. But as I was doing the research for this show, I was concerned by some things. So we've got Jordyn Tyson here, 6'2", 200 pounds out of Arizona State. What are your thoughts as to, he went 1-2 overall in this mock. What are your thoughts about Jordyn Tyson?
I've talked a lot about Jordyn Tyson. I love him. I've projected him to be the wide receiver 1 of this class going back to last season. And I just think that he's a guy that wins at all 3 levels of the field. He's really great at it all. And I think he's a vastly underrated contested catch specialist. Like when you look at his profile and his body of work, you wouldn't expect him to be so good in those situations, but he is. Last season, he finished the season with like a 65% contested catch rate. And I believe he's right in that range, if not higher as of now. My only concern for Jordyn Tyson right now is his quarterback, Sam Levitt, is now out for the entire season. I'm not entirely sure that we see Jordyn Tyson the rest of the season now, because I think he might have agents in his ear or something telling him like, hey, it's time to shut it down and prepare for the draft. I just don't know if Jordyn Tyson is like that type, like the personality to want to shut it down. He's very competitive. Obviously, we know the battling back from the injuries. I can totally see him wanting to go out there and perform. And then if that's the case, I do have concerns about his draft stock, but I really do anticipate him to shut it down. And he does have an extra year of eligibility, because his first season at Arizona State after the injury, I believe he only had 4 games played. He took a medical red shirt. So he does have that extra season of eligibility if he did want to go to the 2027 class. But as we know, as of right now, that class is looking pretty loaded. So I'm not sure where he would slate in with that class.
I mean, it wouldn't be wide receiver 1. That's no. Pretty, that's a pretty much given. So in this class, like again, we're both huge fans of Jordyn Tyson. We've proclaimed him. You were early to the party, and I jumped on the bandwagon before it caught full steam early in the season. And now with the injury to Sam Levitt, who's also probably going to be a day 2 Sunday guy, if the medicals come back, we have Jordyn Tyson battles back from injury, plays really well this year, but there's some declining metrics that I wanted to run by you and see if they concerned you at all. So we talked about winning at all 3 levels. His yards per reception has dropped from 14.6 to 11. The decline in slot snaps, he went from 42.6% in the slot last year to 25.4% this year, which, again, if you're winning outside, if you're aligned more versatilely, which there's another receiver who I think may be challenging him that we'll talk about here in a second. If you're winning in different alignments, then that's a positive, not a negative. But I just wanted to bring this up. Declining yards per route run from 3.04 to 2.27, and then declining contested catch percentage year over year. So the question here for me to you is, has he lost his stranglehold on the wide receiver 1 position for the 2026 class to you?
Yeah, he has. And it's nothing against him. I think there's been a couple of factors that have really played into this. Obviously, Sam Levitt being one. He's had his own little, minor injuries that have kept him out. But also the meteoric rise of a guy that we're going to talk about later, Makai Lemon, and just some others in this class. Like we talked about over the course of the offseason, us projecting the quarterbacks to be the strength. And now it's really looking like the wide receivers have had the biggest rise in value. So there's some other guys that are in contention now. So he's definitely lost it. But like I said, when you don't have your main guy, Sam Levitt, who they have great chemistry with, when you don't have him out there, I mean, it directly leads to this decline, especially in the yards per route run metric, yards per reception, going down from 14 in his ADOT to 11 this season. You look over the course of the games when it happened, that's right when Levitt was out. So, I mean, you have a quarterback with less experience who's not as talented, maybe can't read the defenses as good. Like he has Jordyn Tyson as a security blanket, so he's not getting the yards further down the field. Jordyn Tyson loves to eat in the intermediate level of the field. And right now you're kind of seeing him do the shorter work right now.
Yeah, that's just kind of, I chalked it up to that. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't in, the wide receiver Ollie Gordon territory. We were, but let's move on. This is your squad. This is your guy. You've been banging the drum. No Diddy, if you have to know Diddy banging the drum. But you've been banging the drum about this guy, and I mean he's right there. He's right there in your favorite team's backyard. So why don't you tell us about the 1-3 in this draft, brother?
Yeah, Makai Lemon. I mean, in back, I don't know when we did that, the original mock that Casey did. I had Makai Lemon there as a back end first player, and now look at how far he's vaulted up. 103 in this mock. I mean, meteoric rise. He could do it all. You talk about alignment versatility. He's lining up more outside than he ever was in the past. I believe it was against Illinois where you saw that sick contested catch on a fade in the red zone. Like, he's just added elements to his game to make him a full complementary wide receiver. Some people might be scared off by the height because I think he's like 5'10", 5'11". He's not the biggest guy, but he did put on more weight over the course of the offseason, and he added that functional strength. And you really see that when he's battling with the corners and press, like, the hand combat stuff. He's just added all these different elements to his game to make him a better overall receiver. And now you start to see those Amon-Ra St. Brown comps. That's a guy that I watched for USC too. And when the season first started, I heard people saying that on 247, like, oh, he looks like Amon-Ra. Oh, he looks like Amon-Ra. And I really pushed back, and I was hesitant because I thought, Chev, that he was going to be relegated only to the slot. And now we're seeing him do it all. And I mean, he looks like one of the most explosive playmakers in the NCAA. I didn't check the updated stats, but before yesterday's games, by a wide margin, he was leading the Power Four in yardage, yards per route run, all types of metrics that we look at, right? He was leading them all. So his play stands for itself. He's having a Biletnikoff-worthy season. I'm hoping that my guy gets it. What do you think, Chev?
Man, my only question is, like, how high is this ceiling? Because when you watch him play, you're like, oh, this is awesome. And then the advanced metrics tell you he's awesome as well. He's sixth in the country in missed tackles forced with 16. He's at 3.29 yards per route run. He's sixth in receiving yards in the entire country. That's including FBS, all FBS. He's sixth. And that, like, again, he would be first in Power Four, as you alluded to, with 776 yards. And the alignment versatility. His slot snaps are actually down year over year from 85% in 2024 to 69%. Nice. In 2025. So, and he's the second highest PFF college graded receiver. Not that we put a ton of stock into that, but everything points to Makai Lemon being awesome. Hence the draft capital here at the 1-3. Like I said, what do you see the ceiling as?
I mean, the ceiling is Amon-Ra. If he can go to the right system that utilizes his strengths effectively, maybe motions him in and out, like gets real creative with him, he could do it all, and he's going to be a PPR monster. And of course, this mock is a PPR 0.75 tight end premium. So, I mean, that's right there. He's a guy that I think he's going to have a pretty safe floor because he's going to be a good safety net for a guy. If you need him to go over the top, he's going to win there. If you need him to win in contested catch situations, he could do that. He can win on those outbreaking routes over the middle of the field. He could do it all, man. He's got a full route tree. And we talked about Jordyn Tyson losing the stranglehold. And it's in large part because of what Makai Lemon's done. And if Makai Lemon continues on this pace and he continues playing and Tyson has to shut it down, well, you know how recency bias works, Chev. I can easily see a world where Makai Lemon is now looked at as the wide receiver one for this class. And for some people, he already is. My guy, Kevin Coleman over at the Devi Royale, shout out to them over there. He already has Makai Lemon as his wide receiver one. He did a pretty good little in-depth profile on him too. And I mean, I agree with a lot of what he's saying. With my Trojans, man, Chev, I try not to be too biased. And so I try to pump the brakes as much as possible. But I mean, the dude's incredible.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just 10 out of 10, no notes. I'm with you. But let's move on to the 1-4. Here we have Mr. Carnell Tate out of Ohio State, 6'3", 195 pounds. And this is just the latest iteration in the wide receiver factory that has become the Ohio State University. He's playing next to an alien. He was able to command targets in a room that featured, Jeremiah Smith and first round pick Emeka Egbuka. And, he was battling and getting playing time even when Marvin Harrison Jr. was there. So you have a guy like Carnell Tate who, I mean, they're using him pretty much as like an outside X guy and just kind of moving him around. He's lined up out wide on 90% of his snaps this year. He's 14th in the FBS in receiving yards with 711. He's at 3.52 yards per route run this year and 11 to 12 contested catches, currently mocked 26th to the Buffalo Bills. What do you have to say about Mr. Carnell Tate, brother?
First of all, if he goes to the Bills, it's up, right, for him. Like I think his play strength is exactly what they need because he's a guy that's going to line up outside. 90% of his snaps are outside. He's going to 8 out of 14 yards. So I mean, he's not doing any dink and dunk stuff. And like you said, like he's playing with legit NFL talent. If Jeremiah Smith were to declare today, he'd be the 101. If he declared last year, he would have been the 101. It's probably going to be the 101 next year, right? And he's able, with all that talent in the room, able to still be productive. Yesterday, he and Jeremiah Smith both had went over 120 yards, right? We've seen the deep shots from Julian Sayin, the back of the end zone, double coverage, doesn't matter. He's going up there and making those catches. I think he's severely underrated for a guy who's profiled as a boundary X wide receiver, 6'3". Like he's no slouch out there. And I just love his skill set. We know that these Ohio State wide receivers are going to be able to go into the NFL and be dominant right away. Like the scouts look at these guys and they know that they've been coached up by Brian Hartline and they're going to be able to go in there and dominate. You look at it, Emeka Egbuka this year, he wasn't, everybody knew about him, and obviously he was a first round talent. He was taken first round in the draft, but I don't think that people expected him to be able to go out there and do what he could do. And it's like, no, Egbuka was a higher rated prospect coming out of high school than Marvin Harrison, right? Like these guys coming out of Ohio State are just, they're so talented. And so when they hit the NFL, they're pros and they're ready to go. And so when I look at Carnell Tate, I just see the next one in line. I really do. He's wide receiver 3 for me right now, but clearly he, Tyson, and Lemon, they're all in the same tier for me. I think that they are all definitive first round NFL draft picks. And man, if he goes to the Bills, dude, I hadn't even seen that yet in the notes. That gets me excited because they need that.
And again, we are referencing the Yahoo Sports article, NFL mock draft, 3 QBs go in the top 4. We'll post the link. It'll be in the description so that you can reference what we're talking about. But let's move on to a guy like this is where we kind of get into. So obviously these top 4 picks feel rock solid. And this is where it starts to get, this is the first time where I'm a little nervous. I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious here. And the difference, the alarming comps for this pick. First, you announce a pick. You tell us where the 1-5 took us in this mock draft, and then we'll get into all that.
Yeah. 105 for this mock was LaNorris Sellers, quarterback there out of South Carolina. And I think I see what you're meaning, Chev. Like there's a lot of red flags in his profile right now. And going back to that mock that we all did early in the offseason, he was my number 1 pick because we look at the traits, right? The big frame, explosive arm, the ability to run and be a Konami level threat. All of that's still there, right? Unfortunately for South Carolina, I think that the framework of the team around him isn't the best. They continues to get pressure on him. And so when you look at PFF and you see his pressure to sack rate at 25%, a 3.30 time to throw, it would point to a guy who's holding on to the football too well. But when you flip on the all-22, you see that his wide receivers aren't getting the best separation. He's getting free defenders in his face, right? Like teams are rushing for and getting pressure on him because the lineman misses a block or they're doubling someone over here. And so it's allowing free pressure in his face and he's having to dance around and try to make magic. So that kind of skews the numbers a bit. But man, he's a guy that has all the talent in the world. When you turn on the tape and you see his mechanics, he has a good set base. I love the release on him. Like he's built and ready to be an NFL quarterback in my mind, mechanically. It's just the framework of the team around him. So I think that after this, what's gone on with this season, because South Carolina has not had the season that they anticipated. He's only
not at all.
He's only passed for, I don't even think he's passed for 2,000 yards yet. I know he has 7 touchdowns. What was that?
1,500 yards.
Yeah, and 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Like, it's not what we anticipated. So now it's like, LaNorris Sellers, I don't think he's going to declare for this draft at all. I think that he's going to use that extra year of eligibility. And I mean, this is going to hurt Gamecock fans, but I really hope that he transfers. You know, maybe go to Miami or someplace that's shown that they can develop quarterbacks a little bit and elevate his draft stock, because we know for fantasy, he's likely to be good. Like, I can really see a scenario where he gets drafted in the NFL and he absolutely dominates. And we're like, man, he must have been killing it at South Carolina. And you look back and you're like, no, like Shane Beamer and them, they just couldn't build a complementary team around him. And you can have all the talent in the world, Chev, as you know, but this is a team game. And if you don't have those other foundational pieces around them, they're not going to find success. Like, he's doing his best out there. but it's just not the best. And he's not without fault either at all. He's got like 9 turnover worthy plays. I've charted a little more just based on my film work that I've done. So I actually have him graded at 12 turnover worthy plays in my scouting notes. I think he believes in the arm and he's trying to make plays. He's trying to make up for the lack of talent around him and just make plays. And it's just really bitten them this year.
Yeah, it's a cabinet that's completely bereft of weapons that could actually support his skill set. So if he does come out good, like you've played enough football for less than what your value actually is, and maybe we can get some professional development. We've seen this movie time and time again of athletic guys who get failed by an organization. But this guy's played enough college football to where I feel comfortable with his ability to adapt and be a franchise guy day one. But it's just we're not going to get the run out that we want now. I know I asked you to do the 1-5, but I would be being disingenuous because I took from your book of secrets for this guy, and I couldn't be happier that I did, where I was able to get him in a couple spots in Debbie. So why don't you tell us about the 1-6 here?
Yo, before we get back to the show, hit your boys up with a 5-star review on Spotify and or iTunes, submit proof, and get entered to win a free year in the pleasure chest over on Patreon.
Yeah, that 106 is Jonah Coleman, running back out of Washington. And I think I've gone on record in every show that I've been on is like, this is my guy. His comp for me is David Montgomery. He wins in much the same way. Like he's a shorter back that runs with power and it has a little more elusive juice than you would anticipate. When I was doing my scouting, I said that he's a bulldozer with ballerina feet because you see him in the pocket when he's moving around. He's got those shifty little feet, but then he's going to, knock an MFer over. So just love his profile. Absolutely. And you've seen it this year after losing that weight, after going down from 236 pounds to 222, he's added that sudden burst through the hole, right? He's patient to the hole, and then he's going to explode through it when he sees it. And he's got 13 rushing touchdowns on the season, which leads the nation. Definitely that like I talked about Jeremiyah Love last night in the Discord about being a good zone runner, and you definitely see that with Jonah Coleman as well. He's my RB2, and I don't think that he gets first round NFL draft capital, but I think he's going to be slated right there where like Travion Henderson was last season. I really do, and that's early day 2, early second round draft cap, which for running backs to me is almost as good as the first round, right? It's still high-end draft cap for them, and it points to a team that's really investing heavily at that position, and they're likely to use him. And I think his skill set he can fit in any team. He really can. I've seen him in his first year in Washington and even going back to his freshman year at Arizona, where he didn't have the best offensive line, and he was still making moves. He was winning independent of his offensive line. So what are your thoughts, Chev? Because I know you love him just as much as me.
I think he's super athletic, and this is where we can create like generational buying opportunities, because I do think teams are going to look at the 5'9", 222 pound frame and question whether or not he could be a 3-down back or, things in his skill set that he's already answered the questions for time and again. So this is one of my favorite picks. This is going to be one of my favorite picks because he's going to be here now. And then if he runs a bad 40, we're going to bump him down a little bit more. And then if he doesn't get the draft capital, we're going to bump him down a little bit more. And then we're going to get to training camp and he's going to blow the doors off of everything. And you will have gotten a stud, a bona fide 3-down NFL workhorse. I'm calling it right now in the late second or third round. He's basically a more athletic version of Cam Scatterbo. That's the physical comp to me. Like he's more skilled in every single way. He is if you put him on an NFL team right now, he's better than Cam Scatterbo.
Yeah, I agree. I think Cam Scatterbo just wins with physicality, right? And want to more so than actual skill set. I definitely agree that Jonah Coleman is more skilled in football, like just technique things. What I've loved about his game this season, Chev, and you talked about him being a 3-down back, he can pass block. He's out there just knocking dudes down. And that was a big increase from what he was doing last season, where he was more of like a willing blocker. That matters for fantasy because it's going to keep him out there. but also he really worked on his receiving game to be in a weapon. I mean, he's always been able to take dump offs and screens, but now you see him running little like whip routes, some Texas routes out there out of the backfield, and it's great to see. He already has a 100-yard receiving game on his profile in college this season. Against Washington State, he had 104 receiving yards and a touchdown. I mean, so he's put it on tape, and the scouting mantra is, look, if I see you do that once on tape, that I know that skill set is going to translate. I know that you're able to do it, is what I'm trying to say. So he's like, if he goes to a team that's able to use him effectively, and again, that's a big caveat for all of these guys. If they go to a team that's able to use them effectively, I mean, we might be looking back at a couple of years and saying, how were we not higher on him? Was it because of the combine? Because like you said, Chev, I don't think he's going to test the best athletically, right? But I think once you put the pads on and you start doing real football stuff, you're going to be like, man, this guy's incredible. Because his game speed is better than his 40. Go figure. I think speed matters more when you're on the football field with pads and hitting people than, in shorts and running in a straight line. But that's just me.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. I think this is just one of my favorite prospects in the class, and I'm glad that we're in less dynasty leagues together because I have a better chance at getting him in those leagues. So let's move on to the 1-7. We're gonna blow through a few more of these. Not to say that these aren't really good players, but we want to keep this truncated so we keep your attention. Dante Moore, Oregon quarterback, transferred out, then transferred back in. One of your favorite quote. Actually, I'll let you talk about your favorite quote when it comes to guys like this. I'm doing a show with a guy that I'm a fan of the way that he processes the game. So sometimes you'll hear me say things that they say, but it's because I listen to the stuff that he puts on the internet. So take it away with Dante Moore.
What you go through molds you, right? I think everybody in life has gone through adversity, or something in your life has happened that adversity has shaped who you are today. And to me, Dante Moore was always the embodiment of that, right? He's a guy that if you play Devy, many were high on coming out of high school. As a recruit, he was the number 1 rated recruit in that class for many people. And they just anticipated him to be a day 1 starter. And that's why he went to UCLA, because he could start. And of course, that didn't happen. He got booed off the field. The community gave up on him. Well, he went and he reinvented himself at Oregon, learning behind Dylan Gabriel. He soaked up the playbook. And now this year was his chance to show what he had become. And like the great Phoenix rising from the ashes, that's what you saw Dante Moore do. He went out there and he's just showed like, hey, not only am I really good like everybody thought, but I'm a first-round talent. I'm a guy that against Penn State with 120,000 fans in attendance in a wideout on the road in a pressure situation can roll out of the pocket, evade a free rusher, throw sidearm to a wide receiver and hit the game-winning touchdown, essentially. That's who Dante Moore is now. And that's why he needs to be on your radar, because he is going to be a first-round pick if he declares. And that's the caveat with some of these guys, Chev. We're going to see some guys that might not declare this year. But with how the class has gone, I do anticipate Dante Moore to declare. And I think he's going to be a first-round guy.
Oh, I'm with you. I don't have any pushback. He's currently mocked at 4th overall in that Yahoo mock that we're referencing to the Cleveland Browns. Moving on to the 1-8. We've got Justice Haynes out of Michigan, transfer from University of Alabama. Home run Haynes is what we've called him. 5'11", 210. This is a guy I think that he's grown on both of us throughout the process, because we both felt like it was and then this dude just started ripping off 50-yard touchdowns like it was nobody's business. Currently injured, but he should be good by the time evaluation season rolls around. So tell us a little bit more about Justice Haynes.
Yeah, like you said, he was one that I was cautiously optimistic about, and now I'm all in. I'm all in on the Justice Haynes train, home run Haynes, like you said. I mean, for me, Chev, the type of back that I want to target in Dynasty are those home run hitters, the guys that are going to provide those big spark weeks for you. That's why I was big on Achane, before his draft. I was much higher on Achane than a lot of people in the community, and I got ridiculed for it. And I was like, look, with the way that the NFL is now, you don't need these big workhorse backs. They all work in complementary roles. If you give a guy 12 to 15 touches and he can be super efficient with that, and in the midst of those 12 to 15, he's going to provide a 50, 75-yard home run hit, I'm all in, right? That is fantasy gold, and that's what you're going to see in Justice Haynes. The only real knock I have in his profile is He doesn't get a lot of receiving work, but I think a lot of that is the Michigan scheme. They just don't use those running backs like that typically. Because I did see him over his course in time in Alabama make some nice little snags. So it's not that he can't do it. I'm fully convinced that he's just not being asked. So I think he's a guy that's going to get drafted to the NFL, and he's going to get some better receiving work and get back. Man, how did we never see this coming? But he's explosive, man. He could just do it all. There's some weird stuff going on with him right now. Like right before yesterday's game, he was seen on a walker or a little scooter, right? And then there's some reports surfacing. Yeah. I was like, what's going on with him?
I'm sorry. That shit was it was so funny to see, man. Like I was not expecting that. So like seeing him, yeah, bro, but go on. Yeah, there's weird stuff, and that's why I brought it up. But when you brought up the scooter, like the image was burning in my brain, and I was just like, what's happening here?
Oh, I thought you were laughing at my son up there waking up yelling. And he said, Mom. Yeah. So, but there's reports out there that he broke his foot, and it hasn't been confirmed. But they're saying that he possibly broke his foot. So I got to see on that. He might be out for the season, which would be very unfortunate because every game that he's played in this season that he's been healthy, he's rushed for over 100 yards.
Yeah.
Every single game that he's been healthy.
He is awesome, and it pains me because he looks better. I thought for sure that, Jam Miller was the better of the two running backs out of the University of Alabama, and it's clearly just not working out in that fashion. But yeah, do you have anything else you want to discuss with Justice Haynes?
No, not really.
I think he's gonna be a really solid NFL player. I can't wait to get more into his film to really formulate an opinion and be able to put out, some concise thoughts on him. But now we're to my pick. I took the 109 in this draft, and it's a guy that I have been. Shout out to Matty Kiwoom, by the way, because he was one of the. You and he were one of the first guys, some of the first guys to talk about Denzel Boston. And then I did another show with a guy who doesn't really know ball at all. And he was like, yeah, I don't like Denzel Boston. Oh, he's not very good. He doesn't get separation. So anyway, we move on to the 109. I took Denzel Boston, 6'4", 209, contested catch goon with special movement skills for a big man. And I'm really excited about this. I think that he's going to be one of the biggest guys. Now, obviously, if you've listened to me for any period of time, I obviously have a weakness for like 6'3" and above receivers that can move a little bit. So it makes the Drake London denial just kind of a conundrum that we don't have to get into right now. But Denzel Boston is one of my favorite receivers in this class. Time and again. Now, he did struggle against Ohio State, but everybody struggles against Ohio State. That's not a knock. It's probably, a day one or day two NFL corner over there. Plus, it just wasn't a great day for that offense as a whole. But Denzel Boston has put it all on tape this year. I mean, he's just a contested catch goon. He has special movement skills for a big man after the catch, which is another thing that I love to see. And I think that he's going to be a riser, kind of like Jaden Higgins was last year. I hitched my wagon to Jaden Higgins pretty hard. And I think that this is going to be another guy that rises tremendously. So what are your thoughts about Denzel Boston?
Well, first of all, I just have to hit on the separation thing again. That's like become this annoying rhetoric throughout the community, is that these big guys don't get separation. And you were the first one to point this out to me. And now I mimic this as well. The separation occurs vertically, right? There's differences and there's different types of separation. If you're able to go and jump and attack the ball at its highest point, leaving the defender no chance, because let's be real, how big are most cornerbacks, Chev? They average like 5'9", 5'11". This guy is already taller than you and you're able to jump. That's where your separation comes from. It's an older school concept that these new cats, the spreadsheet freaks, they look at it and they're like, oh, his separation scores is this and that. And yes, can he develop more in his route running nuance to gain separation that way? Sure, absolutely. And he's going to have to at the next level. That's just, if any wide receiver wants to make that transition successfully, they have to get better at it, because the corners and defensive play at the next level are just better. So I just had to hit on that. But like my guy Chris, the Shifu at the Devi Dojo, he put out a recent article on Substack, and he listed Denzel Boston as a big time riser. And he cited sources of scouts saying like they see this guy as an NFL first round pick, and they referenced his hand size, these big mitts that he's able to just go put out there, and he catches everything his way. His last game versus Illinois, Chev, he had 13 targets, 10 catches, 153 yards, and a receiving touchdown. And he also threw for a touchdown. Like they were just using him all over the field. And that was something that I hadn't seen in his game yet. Being able to throw like that was incredible. And I've mentioned on the Devi Dojo podcast a few times, like his quarterback, Damon Williams, a lot of times they'll be on the goal line set and he's got Jonah Coleman in the backfield that he can hand it off to. But Damon Williams has said, no, I see it as like a 70-30 chance, our favor, that if I throw up a fade to Denzel Boston, he's going to be able to come down with it. So, I mean, that's the skill set that he's going to bring to the NFL as well.
Oh, without question. I mean, this is a prototypical X receiver. Now, his slot snaps are up. He's almost at 20% in the slot. So, again, this is just development of a player and then more comfortability in an offense. But, like, I love Denzel Boston. So that's music to my ears. And whenever me and Chris align on a prospect, it's pretty diabolical because we see the game differently almost to a T. But all right, let's move on to the 110. Let's talk about Ty Simpson. I'll let you have the floor for it, and then I'll just add a couple things.
Okay. I mean, one of the biggest risers, and I think he's a little too low right here because we talk about the positional value of the quarterbacks. This is the guy that I think is going to be taken potentially, like if the draft were to occur today, Ty Simpson would be the number one quarterback off the board, hands down. And that was scary for me to say because I'm one of those guys that.
So we'll get into Ty Simpson. I think the biggest thing with Ty Simpson is that he's a gamer and he's spent the time to develop. This is his first year playing full-time snaps. If you recall, a couple years ago, Jalen Milroe got benched for him, and then Ty Simpson was equally poor and gave the job back to Jalen Milroe, but he's grown since then. And outside, even in the loss to Florida State, I text a buddy of mine who's a huge Bama fan. We're keeping him in our thoughts as, he can make better life decisions, but you see that he's a gamer, and then the confidence starts to grow, and then he starts ripping throws into tight windows and throwing with anticipation and moving around in the pocket. He's mobile. So at 6'2", 208 pounds, he's more of a Brock Purdy than he ever will be a Josh Allen, but he's got mobility. So this is a really, really exciting thing. But I'm going to let you come in and talk about Ty Simpson and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, you complimented what I was about to say very well. Just the experience factor, that was a red flag in his profile that I was concerned of. And then, of course, coming off the Florida State game, it wasn't looking the best, but you've continued to see him develop and get better. And he looks like a multi-year starter out there right now. Like if you put on tape from his last couple games, Chev, could you honestly tell me that he's a first-year starter?
No.
Yeah, and I think that's a credit to him and the work that he put in behind the scenes, sitting behind a Bryce Young, sitting behind a Jalen Milroe, sitting behind guys like that, waiting his opportunity. In this era, that's something that's just unheard of. You don't see that very often, if at all. And so meteoric rise for him, good for the kid. Coming out of high school, he was the number one recruited or ranked dual threat quarterback in his class. And you've seen that. Like maybe he's not a Konami code guy, but he's got functional mobility in the pocket. You see him stepping up and making those throws when the defenders bear down on him. And you see him be able to escape the pocket and throw on the run. So those are all traits that translate well to Sunday. And he's going to be a good asset for you to roster in Dynasty.
And yeah, this is why you never write the book on a class without seeing the class perform their latest performances, because you never know who's been putting in the work in the shadows. So all of those mocks or all of the things where people are saying this is what you should sell your 26 first for, this is what you like. Those guys now are wishing that you had the capital, because there's always going to be players to emerge. We can't, like, the puzzle's not complete if we don't have your latest piece of work. So with that being said, I'm moving to the 111, and this is one of my favorite prospects in the class, currently mocked to the Kansas City Chiefs, the former Idaho State Player of the Year. We have Mr. Kenyon Sadiq out of the University of Oregon. So we've got 2 Oregon Ducks on here, and Kenyon Sadiq, 6'3", 235 pounds, the prototypical. Like this is like Black Rock Bowers. Like he just lines up all over the place. He does so many different things in the offense. He's got the size and the athleticism to be a mismatch for linebackers and too big to cover for safeties and even like slot corners. Like this is a big-bodied. This is a guy who is listed as a tight end but has a wide receiver skill set, and we're seeing that become prominent more and more. Like the Aronde Gadsden's. Hey, pat on the back. We'll do that right there. And you're seeing that more often. And there's plenty of guys that you and I have talked about offline that we don't have to talk about here. But Kenyon Sadiq is a size speed freak. He's currently mocked to the Chiefs. He has been impressive. He was impressive last year, but he's clearly taken a step forward. And, I know it seems like sacrilege to compare someone to Brock Bowers, but this is the type of athlete that I believe that Kenyon Sadiq is. So I wanted that to stick into your brain like, hey, this guy's really, really stinking good, and we shouldn't be overlooking it. What do you like, or what do you have to say about Mr. Sadiq here?
He's an athletic freak, like you said. And I think those are the types that we look for fantasy, right? Like, who are the guys that are going to get the slot snaps? And right now he's almost at 50% of his snaps in the slot. And so that's something that I'm very excited for. I still have questions about him as far as like his route running. I know Oregon with their tight ends, they do, I don't want to say gimmicky stuff, but they do a lot of easy button stuff for them. And his numbers, like they're not gaudy, but I think a lot of that again is the system. Like currently right now, Oregon has 3 or literally 4 running backs that they'll deploy in one game, and all of them will be productive. And Dante Moore, the quarterback, is doing a really good job of spreading it around. But when you look at his numbers last season, he finished 307 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Well, he's already got more receiving yards and he's already got more touchdowns on this season with more games left to play. So I think that he's a guy that after the combine, showing off that athleticism, you're going to see him rise. Some team's going to take him. He's being mocked by a lot of sites as a first round guy. So we'll see if that happens. With tight ends, Chev, I'm always like, I'd rather wait and buy an older tight end just because typically they take a while to develop, unless you hit on a Gadsden, right? Unless you hit on guys like that. So we'll see how he does, man. I still have a couple other tight ends that I would take ahead of him. I think at this point I would take Stowers, Michael Trigg. I think I would take one of those guys over him just because I see them as more complete tight ends, especially Stowers. Like I think he's a guy that is going to be able to block too. And I think that matters for the tight end position as well, because it's going to keep you out there. Like George Kittle talks about it all the time. You can't take a George Kittle and you can't take a Tucker Kraft off the field because they're your mainline blockers as well.
You hit the nail on the head. It'll be interesting to see what the skill set fit is. With Aronde Gadsden, we got the perfect landing spot and they had a plan for him. So we'll get into that at a different time, like in evaluating the skill sets and the fits and potential sleepers and all that stuff. But I'm going to let you close us out here and talk about your pick at the 112. You took the 112 in this draft, and it's a guy that I absolutely love, but you took him here. So talk about your guy here, Chris Bell.
Yeah, Chris Bell, wide receiver out of Louisville, 6'2", 220 pounds. He's a size speed freak, man. If you can really get this guy rolling, it's trouble for the defensive backs, because like in a flash, that dude is turn it on the burners and he's gone. And he runs with the physicality and power of like a running back. So he's really exciting. He's been a real riser for a lot of people in this draft. If you did this at the offseason, nobody was talking about Chris Bell. And he's just a guy who over time, year after year, has continued to stack productive seasons, and he's just continued to get better. I still have some questions about his route running. I think that he needs to develop that to take him to where he could potentially be. But right now, with what he's being asked to do, he's crushing it. And I think he's going to go to the combine again and go and crush that and really raise his value there. People are going to look at that that body and be like, oh man, the way that compact frame, the way he's built, he's like a little muscle hamster out there running with the ball in his hands. Chris from the Devi Dojo, he called him like a Debo Samuel. And I almost hate that because everybody wants to make him a Debo Samuel. But I can see the vision behind that comp because he's a guy that if you get him the ball in space, and he's going to go to work, right? He's going to eat and he's probably going to knock some dudes over as well on his way to the crib. So very, very fun player. Still have question marks. I think I told you before the show, if I could do it again, I'd probably take another wide receiver here. Somebody that I just did a spotlight on in Chris Brazell from Tennessee, 6'5" guy that can do all the same things.
So you're going to hate this even more, but we're going to stay in the state of South Carolina, and I'm going to throw out his college tape reminds me a lot of like that last season Xavier Legette. Well, really the only season Xavier Legette was productive. Like you're giving him the contested catches, you're giving him the yak, and I know it's not popular because of the way that Xavier Legette has panned out in the NFL so far, but if you turn it on, he had 1,200 yards his last year at South Carolina, and it was a lot of throwing the ball up, letting him catch it, and then just giving him the ball in, near the line of scrimmage and letting him create these lanes to run 60, 50, 60, 70 yards for a touchdown. Because, that's the type of ability he has. And when you have that as a receiver, there's a gear, there's an echelon you can reach with maximum efficiency. But let's get into a couple names. We're at 50 minutes here. You mentioned Chris Brazell. Let's mention a few more names for the guys to keep their eyes on as early risers, some names that you can kind of have in your back pocket. So there's a chance that these guys slip through the cracks and, you can reference this 6 months from now and be like, oh yeah, they told us about that. But I'll go with Jeremy Bernard, 6'1", 204 out of Alabama, taking a step forward in terms of his versatility. They've handed him the ball quite a bit. Who's another guy that you wanted to mention here?
Hollywood Smothers, running back out of NC State, 5'11", 195 pounds. If you've heard the name Isaac Brown, he brings a lot of the same skill sets as him. He's just a little bigger and less hyped. Very explosive player. Be on the lookout for him.
Yeah, he was at one point he was like third in the country in missed tackles forced and like third in rushing yards or somewhere around there. But Hollywood Smothers is awesome. I'll go with Katron Allen, 5'11", 219 out of Penn State. I love Katron. I love me some Katron Allen. Yeah. So seeing him kind of take the lion's share of the backfield in Penn State, I think, no pun intended, by the way, I think that he's going to be a pro he's going to be a better pro than he is in college. And that physicality just handed over to him and giving him the lead in a backfield is going to pay dividends. So that's a name that you definitely need to keep in your back pocket. And I'll let you close us out with a guy that I love as well.
Yeah. Eli Stowers, 6'4", 235-pound tight end out of Vandy. Yesterday versus Texas, he had 135 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Vandy came this close to pulling off that comeback win against Texas yesterday. Like Texas barely scraped out a win there. He looks incredible, dude. I think looking back, I would have taken him over Sadiq here. I think he's pretty clearly tight end 1 or tight end 1A for me. And I don't know how you get him out of the first round here. So definitely be watching for him. I think he's already a pretty big name that people should know. But if you don't know, now you know, right? Go check out some Stowers there from Vandy. He's incredible.
If you don't know, now you know. No. But this has been a 26 mock. This is some in-depth discussion on a lot of these guys that'll be prominent names here in the next couple months during evaluation season and the Senior Bowl and all that stuff. Dustin, before we get out of here, why don't you tell us where we can find you and all your work?
Yeah, my handle should be right there at Empire Elite FF. Just go in there to my profile on Twitter, and I do have a link tree to everything that I'm working on. I got links to the YouTube show, got links to the free Discord, and links to the free Substack. Everything that we're working on. If you prefer audio format, well, guess what? We got links to the podcast versions too. So check us out on there. You won't be disappointed. Get an edge up on your leagues by learning about these guys. Like, even if you're not into Devy, if you just like college football, we got something for you. But there are edges still in this game, like Chev mentioned at the top of the show. And some of them are knowing about these players ahead of time, right? Before your league mates even start talking about these guys. So check us out. We got a good, fun community in there. I'm linked up with Chev and everybody here at the FFD. I'm in those Discords as well. Let's just get together, man. It's fun. It's worth it. And you guys are going to love it.
Yeah. 10 out of 10 recommend. This is, like I said, this is one of the guys in the cabinet of ball knowledge where I run basically anything that we talk about football with. Like he's going to have an opinion that I will value when I make a decision. So if you want more me, I have a link tree as well. Follow me at Chef90, all that good stuff. Most important thing you can do for me right now is go download the League Chat app, put in your rankings today. We're doing a free sweepstakes. We're actually about to open up a new competition for a season-long rest of season rankings for redraft and dynasty. So if you're into all that stuff, please go download the app today. Until next time, there's ball watchers and there's ball knowers. Assign yourselves accordingly.